Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shapir Suleiman. September 28 is the scheduled date for the commencement of presidential and National Assembly campaigns, as published by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Ahead of the campaigns, political parties who are fielding candidates in the forthcoming 2023 presidential election are warming up to use any available platform to market their respective candidates. Today on the program, we will be discussing issues that will form the basis of the anticipated campaigns. And we are joined by Barrister Hannatu Musawa, a columnist, a Deputy Director, Communication, Media and Publicity, and also a Deputy Spokesperson, Tinubu Campaign Council. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hi. Okay, before we commence the discussions, let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. And now the conversation begins. We have in the studio Hannatu Musawa, who is the Deputy Spokesperson of the Tinubu Campaign Council. Once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me start by congratulating you,
Thank you
on your
Thank
appointment.
You. Thank you.
It's quite apt, some would say, looking at the fact that there has been this yearning for women inclusion in active politicking, if you like, now being a spokesperson.
Exactly.
Let me start from that point of view. How tasking is it going to be looking at the fact that, you have to square up with men, if you like, in terms of marketing and also defending some of the policies that will be churned out?
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me. It's going to be, I think tasking probably is not the right adjective. I think for me, it's going to be extremely exciting. I think, yes, I'm squaring up with men, but as they say, what a man can do, a woman can do a lot better. Yes. And possibly, the fact that there's a woman representation is key as the national discourse we've been having all over the country. And I think it's very important for women out there all over Nigeria to see that they have representation in this on this platform. So it's a very exciting time for me, and it is a time that I want to apply myself in the appropriate manner in order to ensure that my principles are elected come 2023.
Yeah, let's start with the constituency, talking about women, for instance, and of course what will form the basis of the engagement. Women in Nigeria, and in northern Nigeria in particular, the receiving end, if you like, of virtually all that is happening in the country in terms of what we're getting out of governance. Either if you're talking about insecurity or you're talking about economic decline and what have you. Now, it would be appropriate perhaps to ask you how, if you actually have an idea of what would be, you'll be confronted with, engaging women going forward.
I think it's actually very easy when it comes to politics, especially I speak from my position as a northern woman. Most of the electorate actually resides in rural areas. And in rural areas, as you would know, because of a tradition, men can't traditionally enter into the houses where the women and the children reside. So it is a plus, is a positive that as a woman, if you engage yourself on that level, you have the opportunity to interact with the women in this, especially in the rural areas, one-on-one, and you have an ability to be able to reach out to them and to change their thought process because you would have direct interaction with them, as opposed to men. in those sort of areas that don't have the privilege or
access.
ability to be able to interact with people on that level. And as you would know, I think women constitute the majority of the voting public. So, women are key in the electoral process. And I think if politicians realize that, they would put more emphasis on having more women representation.
Do you think women, have gotten, if you like, what they have bargained for in the last 4 years, for instance, looking at the fact that, yes, they constitute the bulk of the voting population, and they brought in this administration, which happens to be an administration that is being run by your political party, the APC. Would you say that women perhaps had a better bargain?
Yes, in some ways they have, in some ways they haven't. I will start with the vote against the 35% affirmative action, which was a total disaster for women of us who wanted to see progress as far as gender issues are concerned. So I think we could have done a lot better in terms of representation as well. We could have done a lot better in governance. In another respect, you look at the appointment of the likes of Hajia Saidia Umar Farouk in the Humanitarian Ministry, Disaster Management and Social Investment. And you can see a woman from a traditional part of Zamfara state elected on such a huge platform where she had the ability to affect people's lives. And so that has certainly been a plus for the administration and a plus for women. But I really do think women will be able to do a lot better. And I hope in the coming administration we'll be able to affect the change from the legislature that women deserve to see. For me, hopefully 50% affirmation.
Okay, 50% affirmation, You talked about Saidia Umar, who happens to be at the helm of affairs at the Ministry of Humanitarian, affairs and what have you. Again, one of the sectors, that came under public scrutiny is the economic sector. And fortunately, again, we had a woman, spearheading the Ministry of Finance. Today, looking at the indices of economic indices, some would say, that we are having a downward slide, if you like, or decline. And this is a ministry that is being headed by a woman, and perhaps Nigerians will be looking at the performance of women also in governance. How would you rate perhaps her performance in that respect, and what the government is doing, whether it is actually getting the results, and how would you feel if someone said, for instance, that the issue of cost of living in Nigeria is dramatically high, and these are some of the issues we have to face, going forward?
As a campaign, the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu campaign, together with Alhaji Kashim Shettima, we have committed ourselves to being very honest with Nigerians, to align ourselves with the plights of Nigerians. There is no doubt that things are biting for the nation. Economically, things have not probably gone as well as we had expected. But in that regard, what I want to point out is, the government did come in. There was a recession, and not long after that, we had a pandemic. And as the global pandemic, and as the world was trying to recover from that, you had the Ukraine war. So the global economy is just not, Nigeria is not in isolation, has suffered as a result of those. So Nigeria is not isolated in the fact that maybe economically things have not been in the position that we had wanted them to be. But when you look at from a global perspective, and you take the Nigerian economy and you put it pari passu with macroeconomic realities, in other nations, you will find that Nigeria did not really fare as badly as maybe as what we feel, as maybe what people are saying, more exacting critics are saying, assessing, and the way that we feel. Things are very difficult for Nigerians, there's no doubt about that. And Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is hoping to come up with economic plan that will give Nigeria the kind of economic recovery that is it requires. So I think the Honourable Minister of Finance has done a very decent, stellar job under very, very difficult circumstances.
Right. Okay. Talking about addressing the problems, and you are also talking about consolidation. I understand, because it's the same political party, the APC, for instance, and some would say, your principal, if he happens to emerge, winner of the election, come May 29th, would face a very Herculean task of reversing the trend, looking at the nose-diving indices, just like I was saying. Agreed, Nigeria cannot be isolated from, the workings of the dynamics of the international economy, but some of us, some would say, have to do with our policies. Our macroeconomic policies are not giving us the result. We keep having depreciation of the value of the naira. The rising inflation. We're talking about double-digit inflation. The rising number of unemployed Nigerians. It is also hitting the roof. And then we're talking about our piling debt profile and what have you. So there are, multiplicity of issues that need to be confronted. How do you think your principal can change this or reverse the trend, if it happens to come on board?
Oh, I have every single confidence that my principal, together with his running mate, Alhaji Kashim Shettima, will reverse that trend. If you focus on the indisputable achievements of these two great achievers when they were piloting their states, Borno State and Lagos State, you will know and find and understand that they have the innovation to be able specifically not only to come up with the right policies, but to identify individuals, brilliant cerebral individuals that will be able to prefer best solutions for some of these challenges that we have. At the moment, they are working on tweaking or updating the manifesto that Bola Ahmed Tinubu already had. I mean, this is a man that was ready from the get-go. And together with the support of Alhaji Kashim Shettima, who is an incredibly innovative, forward-thinking, cerebral-minded person, they will be able, I feel, to come up with the policies that will be able to address all these issues. These are some of the areas maybe that the government has been found wanting. And this is of great concern for this duo to be able to sort of address all those areas and pay more attention to those areas so that Nigerians can, a resurgence from the very difficult times that all of us are experiencing at the moment.
When are Nigerians going to get this blueprint? Some say your principal by now ought to have a working blueprint. The fact that he has been eyeing this position, the number one seat, even though he didn't contest, but he said it is his lifetime ambition. So Nigerians expected that he by now should have a blueprint with regards to how to address the problems of Nigeria. You talk about rejigging it. Is there one in the first place?
Oh yes, there's one. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has had a blueprint. There is a blueprint in place. But of course, there's dynamic situations, changing situations in Nigeria, and it has to be applied in that regard. So very, very soon you will get a manifesto, and I hope I'll be back on this show to
talk about that.
Dissect it
Okay.
with you.
Okay. Well, while we progress, talk about the issues, again, there are also existential baggages, some would say, around the candidates. Your principal, not an exception. Right from the emergence up to now, there had been a number of issues. Some say even the APC camp is just witnessing what some would call peace of the graveyard. You know, the aspirants who have contested the primaries are not being seen actively engaged or involved in this movement, if you like. Well, no, there haven't been, you know, discordant tones, but then there hasn't been also active participation of this key party man. What is happening? Are we likely going to see an APC going into the race with a united front?
You know, in the aftermath of the primary election, Siwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu made it a point to reach out to all the aspirants who were not successful during that exercise, and he opened his arms to invite them to come on board his campaign. And I think for the most part, we've been able to accommodate most of the aspirants. I mean, there are some who have been very vocal in the fact that they had wanted aspirants from certain regions, and, you know, they have declared for other aspirants, and, you know, it's their right to do so. But and even the party itself, in the aftermath of that election, there was mechanisms put in place by the party to ensure that anyone that felt disenfranchised was sort of reached out to and carried along. And as far as I know, there is unity in the party. As far as I know, maybe now people are not coming out to campaign, the campaigns have not started, but by the time the campaigns have started, I'm sure that you'll see a barrage of all the aspirants that vied for that seat will be coming to campaign for Siwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashmir Shettima in their respective communities.
Are you worried about the number of chieftains, you know, and party members leaving in droves to other political parties? Does it, I mean, some sort of, you know, give you concern when you see a party man, you know, defecting as a result of some of the things that happen within the party, especially those kicking against the emergence of this Muslim ticket?
Well, rather than being concerned about the droves, I'm more elated with the amount of people actually joining the party. Because from my own understanding or my own experience, I see a lot of people joining the party. Of course, there are people who felt aggrieved with the emergence of both the principal and the running mate. But like I said, we are doing all we can. I mean, every single member of this party is of value to us. And we did not or do not and are not willing to lose any of them. So we are adopting every measure to try to accommodate them and to reach out to them with understanding, to be able to support our principal, to return him as the elected president come 2023.
Well, but there are also fears among those who have kicked against this arrangement. You know, some of them are beginning to complain that there have been, I mean, some people have been sponsored to kick them out of the party or to make it practically, I mean, difficult for them to be able to operate within the system simply because they were against this arrangement. I can remember just recently one of those arrowheads of the breakaway movement, if you like, or those not happy with the arrangement. A senator from Adamawa State was complaining that there are some people being sponsored to kick him out of the party. How would you respond to this?
Well, I'm not sure I know the senator that you're talking about, but if there is a valid...
This Senator Elisha Abo. So.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, yeah, okay, so if there's a valid complaint, like I said, the party has mechanisms to be able to do the proper investigation and to address the matter in the manner appropriate. So if there is any truth to that claim, I'm sure the party is working on trying to find a lasting solution for that.
Looking at for instance, the opposition or the criticisms against this Muslim ticket arrangement, Are you also concerned or worried that it might affect the chances of your candidates, going into the election, especially now that you have some sections of the North, for instance, feeling aggrieved, and the likelihood they might, work against the interests of the party? Does that worry your camp? And if that is this position, what efforts are you making, to, though we're beginning to see some movements, one of the arrowheads again was made the Director General of the campaign. But beyond that, how do you intend to appease, those who have felt aggrieved?
First, I want to correct. I don't think that one of the arrowheads was not the Director General of the campaign. I think he's been supportive of the aspirant and the constitution of the ticket from the get-go.
I'm talking about the Plateau State Governor. The current Plateau State Governor was one of those who kick against the Muslim ticket, and now is made the Director General of the campaign. Some would say it's a step to bring back those who have felt aggrieved.
Yeah, I think the Plateau State Governor, apart from being the most appropriate person to assume that position, has actually honestly always been in support of whatever decision the flag bearer, who happened to turn out to be Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, chose. Yes, with the Muslim ticket, from the beginning, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did say that he considered principles that determine victory in politics in determining who was going to be his running mate. This man, very, very cerebral. He considered, like he said, principles of commitment, courage, innovation, integrity, fairness, and adherence to excellence. And that was why he chose Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu. He wasn't looking... Shatima, sorry. Alleged Kashim Shatima, I apologize. He wasn't looking for necessarily a Muslim, a Christian, a certain ethnic...
consideration.
Yes, he wasn't looking for that. What he was looking for was a partner that would help him anchor the business of government. What he was looking for was someone who would help him govern and right from day one, hit the ground running. And Alhaji Kashim Shatima happened to be the person, and he just happened to be a Muslim. However, let's start from a base point that ideally in Nigeria, the issue of ethnicity and the issue of religion shouldn't really come to fray. We should look at ourselves as Nigerians first and foremost. But unfortunately, we are living in a very fractured nation whereby these considerations and sensibilities have to be taken into account. So with that in mind, it is expected that there would be some sort of a kickback from the Christian community when the Muslim ticket came up. And so we understand that. And as a campaign, with that understanding in mind, we want to reach out to the Christian community, specifically those who feel skeptical as to why a Muslim was chosen with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to give them, to bring them on, to explain to them, to give them understanding and let them know that we understand some of these emotions that have been brought up, and to engage the Christian community in a manner that is with utmost good faith. And this is the steps that we want to take. We understand that some people would feel
marginalized.
Yes, marginalized. It's only natural.
Okay, but then beyond party politics, Nigerians are also looking at this decision as one that is coming at a very wrong time. You talk about the fractured society, deepening concerns around religion, ethnicity, and what have you lines. The expectation is that, the ruling party, which is accused of perhaps deepening these fault lines, would have taken into consideration the need, or should prioritize the interests of a unified Nigeria, a united Nigeria, instead of widening the fault lines.
Yes, but for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his primary purpose in this assignment is giving Nigerians the deliverables that he's going to pledge. That is for him what is important, is what will happen in 2023 when he wins election by the grace of God. So for him, he wasn't going to be limited in that regard. He wants to give Nigerians the kind of governance that they deserve, the kind of governance that he has been able to give in Lagos, the kind of governance that he's been able to support other administrations across board. So for him, it was about the quality of the governance that he's going to give. What is more important is politics. Okay, fine. He could have certain considerations and pick maybe someone, Christian or not, or Muslim or not, that maybe would not be able to give him the kind of support that he feels that he's going to get with Alhaji Kashim Shettima. So that was paramount for him, and you know, everything else comes second to that. And you know, the other thing that I wanted to say, I do understand that some people would feel as if there's no representation, because I do believe that one of the concerns of the Christian community is the issue of representation.
That's right.
So now we look at the role of the vice president. You know, the vice president has the power to formulate policy in executive branch of government. But you know, the vice president, by and large, derives his power.
Does he have the power to formulate policy? Well, I understand. You know, he has certain roles in the economic delivery,
yes,
the deliverables,
yes,
and all of that. But substantially, people see the vice president as more of an appendage, if you like, or some say spare tire or so. You know, in the kind of governance arrangement. So. But then, critically, you talked about the issue of representation. That has been the critical concern. Looking at the hierarchy, I mean, the number of people currently in government, from the president to the vice president to the party chairmanship, you know, and all of that. And that has been the major concern. Yes,
but you know, but this is now the president and vice president that hopefully we've picked. In the constitution of government, I assure you, there will be representation across the demographics in a way that will satisfy these agitations.
Okay.
Definitely, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu is not going to isolate or marginalize anyone. He has picked someone that he feels will help him in the business of governance. But that is his choice, right? But within the constitution of government, APC as a party and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima will ensure that there is representation that will take care of all these agitations. So by the time the government is constituted, by the grace of God, you will find that there will be representation across the board. And when we're talking about representation, I think APC, for the time being, is the only one that has been able to give that semblance of representation. APC is the only party thus far that has picked a woman that within the constitution of its campaign council. I'm sure others will in due course, but APC has done that. APC has been able to address the issue of the Christian community, Northern Christian community specifically, by picking a brilliant politician in the person of Governor Lang. Yes. Lalong, yes.
Right. Okay, we'll look at more of these issues, but I think it's about time we take a break. When we return, we'll be looking at some of the other issues, you know, that have been contemporary in the contemporary conversation around as we head towards the election, the 2023 election, or the campaigns, you know, specifically. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics, and I've been interfacing with Barrister Hannatu Musawa. She happens to be the deputy spokesperson of the Tinubu Campaign Council. Together, we'll be looking at you know, the preparations to the commencements of the campaigns next month, and some of the issues that could drive, you know, the conversation, especially that will form the basis of their engagement with Nigerians. We'll take a break. When we return, the conversation continues. you very much for staying with us. It's still Daily Politics, and today we're looking at issues ahead of 2023 presidential campaigns. And we have in the studio Hannatu Musawa. Barrister Hannatu Musawa is the deputy spokesperson of the Tinubu Campaign Council. We are back now to look at more issues. Issues around your principal, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There has been a lot of, conversation around his first health status. There have been concerns regarding his age, and some felt, he should have. Now that he has already emerged, candidate, and how does he intend to face the campaign, the rigorous campaign, talking about moving around 36 states of the Federation and all of that? Do you think, he's got sort of energy, to do that, looking at his age and...
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man with an energy, with the energy of a whole army. 36 states, not only will he visit 36 states, he will campaign in those states rigorously because he wants to be able to present himself to the voting public, for them to see him. He wants to be able to speak to people directly. He has every intention of doing a very rigorous campaign, and we shall support him in that regard. You speak about his age and his health. I'm probably the best person at this point to be able to address that within the campaign structure, because at the same time that I've been given this assignment, before this, I was the secretary of the screening committee for the presidential primary. So we did an exercise where we interacted with every single one of the aspirants. And within that exercise, we were able to scrutinize not only their credentials, we were able to interview them. We asked them questions that were required by law, from a moral perspective from the party, and we also provided guidelines for ourselves. And within that exercise, part of what we did was an exercise to determine the health status of the candidates. And Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu was cleared by our panel. The fact that we saw the documents that we required that satisfied us in regards of his age and his health. So the fact that he was actually cleared, and specifically by a panel that was, I was the secretary of, I can tell you without any equivocation that in terms of health, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu is up to the task, and is up to the task of not only campaigning, but up to the task of being able to govern a populous and very complicated country like Nigeria.
Are you saying that you resolve issues around, those inconsistencies in the age, presented, and perhaps also the certificates, there has been concerns around the omission of this primary school certificate, and so have you addressed all of those concerns?
Yes, with the age, there was no inconsistency. We were given the documents that we vetted them, and it satisfied the whole panel. So in terms of that, there was no issue of inconsistency. I think that is just how can I say, a mirage created by the government. And in regards to the certificate, that was also, we saw...
Is it created by the government, or, on social media? Or?
Maybe there was a case back in 1999, and I think that is the same case that has been regurgitated at this point. It's been settled. The issue of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu went to Chicago State University. I think there was a discrepancy in terms of the name. It was Chicago State University or Chicago University, and it was Chicago State University. I think that matter has already been resolved by the courts back in 1999. It's been brought up now. Obviously, it's political season, so you're bound to see this sort of mudslinging. And of course, now with social media that makes mountains out of molehills, it's a matter that has been laid to rest, and we are confident that Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the candidate that will be cleared even through this court process and will be our candidate come 2023 election.
Yeah. One other issue that has been shrouded, if you like, in mystery, or is yet to be addressed, is this concern among Nigerians of his net worth, for instance, how he made his money.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of concerns with regards to what has he done, perhaps outside government, to earn such, billions of US dollars, so to speak. Is about one of the richest, in Nigeria and beyond, even in Africa. I think I saw it at some point. He is even richer than his home state, talking about Osun State. How do you explain this? Beyond government, yes, at some point he was with the oil sector. At some point was also with one of the financial institutions, if I understand. So, but explain to Nigerians, you happen to, the fact that you want to scrutinize some of these issues, what would you say with regards to his wealth?
Well, I don't know where your source is. Sometimes some of the very outrageous, outlandish stories about wealth here and wealth there, I don't know what the source is. He's not come out to say this is what his net worth is. These are estimations from tabloids and stuff like that. Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, apart from the fact that this is a man that is an extremely astute wealth creator. This is a man that, an accountant that has been in the private sector for a long time. When we did our assessment during the primary screening committee, when he started telling us the myriad of businesses that he did, owning shares in Apple and stuff like that, he's a man that has an eye for business. He's a man who, as I said, is a great wealth creator, and that's what it is. And I think a lot of these other stories of being richer than this and that, these are sort of just, honestly, these are tall tales that are.
But one thing that is known to Nigerians is that, at least that is obvious. He also, that is certain. He also talked about it at some point, the presence of bullion banks in his house and all of that. So Nigerians are wondering, as to how do you...
Okay, but you have a bullion van in your house. What does that mean? We're speculating. Anything could be in that bullion van. It could be the corpse of a chihuahua in the bullion van. We don't know. I didn't see the bullion van, and I don't know what was in the bullion van. Or if it was a bullion van, it could have been, entertainers or having a bullion van. I think we just because in Nigeria bullion vans. So we don't know. Okay. And if there was money in the bullion van, it could have been 1 naira. So I think me as a lawyer, I would like to have evidence of, these are just, honestly, these are speculations. These are just speculations that carry weight more on social media. But I think one has to take with a grain of salt some of these very outrageous, outlandish accusations about wealth.
I'm beginning to see some sort of reactions, coming from your camp. Just recently, there was a reaction to one of the stories that was peddled, also within the social media, that I think a former, is it a president in Ghana was said to have been, was said to be advising, Tinubu to perhaps allow more younger people like Peter Obio. So a number of stories, but we can see that gradually you are reacting to this. So how concerned are you about this propaganda or social media fake news, that is putting your principal on the edge? And how do you intend to counter it going forward?
Well, first of all, I think that president of Ghana came out and refuted that he did not say that. Again, it's, a creation on social media. And yes, there's propaganda on social media. There's a lot of mischief that goes on there. And of course, we're going to have a very robust engagement of people on social media. But we want to do a campaign that will engage people based on issues. We hope not to do some of this mudslinging that you have on social media. Yes, of course, you mentioned with Peter Obi, you know, the emergence of this very colorful cocktail of aspirants in the likes of Alhaji Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, Mr. Peter Obi, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and many, many others, Shawori, so many others, you know, I think is a very exciting time for our polity because it opens up the conversation. It gives our political language, it gives it color, and, you know, it gives the space. It diversifies the democratic space. So it's good for us, for the development of democracy, which is what Asiwaju Ahmed, Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima have always stood for. So they are excited to be standing up against the likes of Alhaji Atiku, patriots, brilliant Nigerians, patriots, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Peter Obi, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and the rest. And we hope that by the time the manifestos come out, all these brilliant Nigerians will be able to put their programs on the Nigerian platform, and we will be able to convince the Nigerian electorate that Asiwaju, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and Alhaji Kashim Shettima have the vision that will help to propel Nigeria to a greater plane, and hopefully we'll be able to change the narrative on social media. So before, instead of having other aspirants, we'll be talking about how each Nigerian is going to bat for BAT, that is Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, okay, but then beyond social media comments and what have you, and there are also Nigerians of high standings, you know, also who are skeptical, if you like, or pessimistic about what this gentleman that you're talking about, especially the two major contenders, will offer to Nigerians. There are those who felt, you know, they've been part of governance process in Nigeria in the last 2-3 decades, if you like, or 4 decades, you know, and they are also part of the problem of Nigeria, that they have nothing to offer beyond what they've done or what they were able to do in the past. How would you respond to people who think this way?
I think if we look at the past of both of these great Nigerians, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Alhaji Kashim Shettima, that would be the reason why people would vote them into power. Alhaji Bola Ahmed, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been a revolutionary in Lagos. I mean, he introduced the Lagos tax governance, you know. He revolutionized the telecommunications industry with Econet. You know, the things that Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu has done in Lagos is enough in and of itself, just on its own. If we educate the public, the way, I mean, Lagos now is almost 15 years ahead of Nigeria itself. And in large part, it's because of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is a man, within this generation, nobody has given more to human capacity than Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So if we look at
that clarification, when you said it is, you know, ahead of Nigeria, in what sense now? Because I know it's proud to be the 4th largest economy in Africa. Is it 4th or 3rd? You know, 4th, that's it. So in what, how would you explain that?
Economically, from an economic perspective, in terms of innovation, in terms of trying to build human capacity, the number of lawyers, engineers that and professionals that Lagos State is churning out is beyond comprehension. And I'm telling you, it's in large part because of the policies that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has put in place.
But Nigeria is not Lagos, for instance. Looking at the numbers, looking at the space, and then looking at the complexities, you know. Here we are just talking about his ability to manage our diversity, you know, even in the choice of his running mate. You think, you know, it's not going to present a greater challenge for him, you know, aspiring to lead a country like Nigeria?
Nigeria is in Lagos, and that's precisely why he picked Alhaji Kashim Shettima. I spoke to you about the fact that what was important to him is giving Nigeria good governance. And he had to pick someone that was going to be able to give him the support to do that, because he knows Nigeria isn't Lagos. And that's why he picked Kashim Shettima. And that was why, in his pick of Kashim Shettima, religion didn't come into fray, because he picked the person that he knew would give him the best support to give a sort of broad application to development that Nigeria needed. He's not pigeonholing himself just to one region. And as I'm talking to you now, Asiwaju has put up a high-powered team from all over the world, Nigerians, brilliant Nigerians from all over the world and from within Nigeria, to try to look at the Nigerian project as a whole and try to come up with solutions for the specific vulnerabilities that require attention. So by the time the manifesto comes out, you will find that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been able to address these issues, vulnerabilities, that and prefer solutions for them. And hopefully we'll be able to present that to Nigerians and convince Nigerians that it is in the best interest of Nigerians.
Looking at the fact that, you know, your campaign will be driven along the path of consolidation, some say you might find it a bit difficult to convince Nigerians, just like looking at what we said earlier, the current realities. So I don't know how you intend to face, you know, these issues, because they will be challenging, telling people that yes, we want to continue with this, we want to continue with that, and then they're looking at also the current realities. How would you face this consolidation issue?
You know, the current reality is something that all of us are facing. And Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu knows this. He too is facing it. We're all living within this atmosphere, and all of us see the insecurity and some of the areas of challenges. So definitely what we hope to do, like I said, there's nothing wrong with consolidating on the gains of the government, because there are areas that this administration has been able to record a lot of achievements.
Like which areas now? Because
like in infrastructure. You know, we speak about infrastructure, and I've said before that when I talk about something like infrastructure, it may come across a bit trite, repetitive, because we keep on harping on infrastructure.
And even in infrastructure, Nigerians will say at what cost? Because, you know, billions of dollars, if you like, has also been added to our debt burden as a result of this infrastructure that we are talking about. Some even say, but in comparison, if you look at how much money has been borrowed, you know, by the country, and what we are seeing in terms of the infrastructure might not be commensurate.
Well, but there are a lot of achievements in terms of infrastructure that have been recorded, and you will find that the administration now is managing hundreds and hundreds of projects in roads, and so there are results there, you know, that very visible results that you can see on bridges and buildings. And in addition to infrastructure, I wanted to also touch on agriculture. In the area of agriculture, you know, one of the main areas that this administration campaigned on was on trying to advance agriculture, trying to increase food security. And you can see that there's been many interventions in terms of increase of livestock production, wheat cultivation in areas like this. I want to also bring in a social investment program. The government has done a great job in social investment program. It has been able to do the conditional cash transfer. They've done the Jeep program. You have in the areas of, and you have to remember, you know, this government went through COVID, the pandemic.
Yeah, just like every other countries.
Yes, like every other country.
Yeah.
Yes, disruption. But even during that, the government was able to reach out to the most vulnerable people in the society through these programs that they have.
Yeah.
Under the
in the area of infrastructure, are you also worried? Because certainly Nigerians will ask questions, and there is need for, some would say, the government to also deliver on this key projects. Yes, agreed. There are a number of, you know, infrastructure, very critical infrastructure that the government is working on. You talked about the second Niger bridge, you know, a number of bridges, you know, road networks, you know, Kaduna, I mean, Lagos, Ibadan, Kaduna, Abuja, and all of that. But the completion also become it's of serious concern to Nigerians.
Yeah.
Until you deliver some of these projects, perhaps Nigerians would not see the end result.
Yes.
Are you worried, you know?
Well, you know, I wouldn't say we're worried because hopefully there will be completion. But if there isn't completion, that is where the government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will come into play. You have to remember that despite the fact that we're running on an APC ticket, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima are two independent men of their own with their own vision. Even though we will continue with the gains that this government has recorded, we hope to be able to build on it, not only build on it, to bring our own flair. So wherever this government has been unable to complete some of their promises or some of their projects, we will continue from there and give Nigerians, we will double performance, because that is what he does as a leader.
Yeah, start talking about the positive side of it. And what about the baggage, if you like, the negative side? How do you do to carry over?
Exactly. So in the areas that there have been challenges, we want to introduce new measures. You know, of course, in the area of insecurity, all of us, I mean, I've been a direct victim, have just, first of all, very happy for Abu Garba. He was my classmate. Him and his wife and his 4 children were kidnapped, so they were just released yesterday. My cousin was one of those people on the train. He was Dr. Barrister Hassan. He was released last week. So all of us are victims of this horrible insecurity that we are facing. And, you know, when it comes to insecurity, every single day, you know, you find new threats that new threats to national security, to personal and community security emerge. And what I always say is that this particular government is fighting a sort of invisible war, because you're fighting a war with a very ferocious combatant that has absolutely no regard to life. So it's not very easy, but I think in response to that, there has to be a more aggressive response.
Approach to the issue.
And this is what we have seen in the last couple of days. There's been a more aggressive response. And hopefully the momentum will be kept up. But in an administration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima, they...
that is if they secure Nigerians' mandate.
Sorry?
That is if they get the mandate of Nigerians.
Oh, yes, we will. By the grace of God, I'm quite confident that we'll be able to...
Very optimistic.
Yes, we are optimistic.
So on that optimistic note, we have to come to the end of the conversation. I understand time is past spent, you know. Thank you very much, Barrister Hannatu Musawa, for talking to us on daily politics. We really appreciate your insights and perspectives.
Thank you. I'm so sad it has to end, but I hope I'll come back to divulge more
it's a continuous
on the programs that we have.
So we
for
also hope to
Nigerians.
get you, especially when the blueprint is out.
Oh yes, of course.
To dissect and perhaps engage Nigerians. Thank you very much once
Thank
again.
you so much.
On behalf of the guests and the technical crew, this is where we come to the end of Daily Politics today. My name is Shafiu Suleiman. We really appreciate you being there for us. We'll come back, you know, tomorrow with another edition of the program and personalities. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day.